I've had 13 surgeries, 4 brain surgeries and 9 kidney surgeries that started when I was 12 years old. I was diagnosed with a disease called von Hippel-Lindau. My grandfather, he had it, and he had a brain tumor and actually died of it as a result of a brain tumor. My mother had it, and she had a number of tumors, and she ended up passing away from it when she was in her early 40s. Essentially what it is the disease, you have a tumor suppressor gene, and mine's turned off, which means that I can develop tumors. And for the most part, they develop in the brain, the kidneys. I've had, as I said, 13 surgeries, 9 on my kidneys, and they've operated on both kidneys. Done partial nephrectomies, taken out parts of the kidneys. Over the years, they've tried to be very conservative when they take out the tumors, because they want the kidneys to last as long as they have. And like I said, first one was when I was 16, and now I'm 43, so they've done a very good job of maintaining my kidneys. We've now reached a point with my kidneys that probably are not going to be able to do much more surgery, and so we're at a point now where we're looking at kidney transplant.
After a lot of prayer and discussion, we've opted to aim for transplant now, because if he was to have another partial nephrectomy, it's an inevitability that he would need a transfusion, which each time that happens, we would run the risk of him developing those antibodies. So we are approved for transplant and going through a process to identify a donor. Once a donor is identified, we will schedule a surgery up in Maryland at the National Institute of Health to have both of his kidneys removed at the same time. Chris will be on dialysis for a very short period of time, hopefully less than 2 months, to give his body time to recuperate from such a major surgery. And then we would go down with a donor to Atlanta and have transplant surgery. I've been through 1 brain surgery with Chris and 5 kidney surgeries with him. What's been amazing for me to watch is how God has worked through all of those surgeries. Chris is already a miracle, because many of the doctors are very interested to see him, because most kidneys can only endure about 3 operations each, and he has had 4 on one and 5 on the other. So he has already surpassed what most doctors have said were even possible.
The question I get a lot is, how do you live with this? My answer to that question probably doesn't make some people feel very comfortable, but it's my faith. My faith in Jesus Christ is what gets me through it. I live my life normal as I possibly can. Whenever we have to go through one of these surgeries, we go through those surgeries because I know God's going to get me through it. And then I go back to my normal life. I don't want to live my life where I am so focused on that, and I don't think that's how God wants me to live my life.
I would be lying if I told you that I trust God 100%. I would be lying if I told you that there weren't days that I don't struggle immensely with why God has allowed us to have to deal with so many surgeries and so many repercussions from his health condition. I still don't understand it. I can see God in the midst of it, but it doesn't mean that that every day I walk around and I'm okay with it. That it doesn't weigh on both of us. There's a story in Daniel about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they're faced with a lot of persecution for their faith, which is certainly different than what we're going through, but there's a time when King Nebuchadnezzar confronts them and says, "You bow down before my idol or you're going into the furnace." And this just jumped out of the page of my Bible as I read this, and I was seeking God and asking him to help. And they said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Our God is able to save us." And then they said, and our God will save us. And then they said, but if he does not. Since the day I have fallen in love with Chris, I have asked God to heal him. I know he's able to do it. There's no doubt in my mind that he's able to do it. I don't know how he would do it, but he's able. And I believe that he will. Maybe not in the miraculous way that I maybe once envisioned. I still think that that's a possibility. But I've also come to a place where I can say, if he does not, I know that God will walk with us in our furnace, and that we'll come out on the other side, just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did, for the glory of God.
We've been at TNBC for about 5 years now. Is it
2009?
4 years then. We've been at TNBC about 4 years, but we have never had to go through a surgery since we've been at TNBC. As a matter of fact, this video will probably be the first time some people at the church will even know that I have any of these problems.
Our small group has been an incredible blessing. We have all been together since the onset of small groups in 2010. And when the church went through a loss of pastor and we endured about 18 months of no pastor, we talked about that our small group was what kept us grounded, and it was what kept us spiritually fed. And it's been an incredible blessing, more than I would have ever imagined.
And so I don't know what God has planned for me. I don't know what God wants or what his ultimate goal is with regards to with this disease. But I do know that he has used it to teach me things. And one thing is to rely upon him.
The prayers of our church family are going to mean a lot to us. Prayers for the medical professionals, successful medical procedures without complication. Prayers for me and Chris's family as we wait while he's in surgery. Prayers for Chris. He endures a lot of pain after his surgery, and to pray that his body would be strong and that he would maybe have less pain. And I think prayers for our faith, that it will grow and not waver, and prayers for a potential donor. Although we are very anxious and nervous on the unknown territory that we're about to embark upon, I'm also anticipating that God is going to display his glory in a very magnificent way.
I have had 13 surgeries, 4 brain surgeries and 9 kidney surgeries that started when I was 12 years old. I was diagnosed with a disease called von Hippel-Lindau. I've had, as I said, 13 surgeries, 9 on my kidneys, and they've operated on both kidneys. Done partial nephrectomies, taken out parts of the kidneys. Over the years, they've tried to be very conservative when they take out the tumors, because they want the kidneys to last as long as they have. And like I said, first one was when I was 16, and now I'm 43, so they've done a very good job of maintaining my kidneys. We've now reached a point with my kidneys that probably are not going to be able to do much more surgery, and so we're at a point now where we're looking at kidney transplant.
So we are approved for transplant, and going through a process to identify a donor.
And keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours,
last, since May, we've had a lot going on trying to locate a donor and look at whether or not there had been any tumor growth over the past months. And the good news was no tumor growth, everything's stable. And even the better news is that we've found a donor.
We first told our small group about what was going on with Chris's health probably in April of last year. We had planned a trip to the National Institute of Health to explore kind of our options for Chris's health, and we knew kind of where we were at, that Chris might not be able to endure any more surgeries and that we might be looking at transplant. And so we let our small group know one Sunday morning while we were sharing prayer requests. And we probably shocked a lot of folks in our small group, but instantly we felt their love and support and surrounding us and wanting to know more and how they could support us.
When we shared with the small group that what my medical situation was and that I was going to need a donor, we just asked for prayer, and after we asked for prayer, a couple of individuals approached us and said they felt like God was talking to them and that they wanted to be tested to be a donor. I was overwhelming when I heard that, or the two people from our small group had told us that they were felt like God was talking to them and that was telling them that they should be tested. It was overwhelming. Just the testimony of those individuals feeling like God was talking to them and they were answering that call, it just had an amazing impact on my faith and strengthened my faith.
Since the first video played back in November, we felt very supported by our church family. I mean, we've had many folks that have come up to us and said, we didn't know, and wow, and we were praying for you guys, and what can we do? And it's not just asking the question and sincerity of we really do want to pray. And follow-up questions, I think folks have probably been a little hesitant to ask every Sunday. But certainly checking in with us and saying, how are things going? And they won't accept our, we're fine. They want to say, no, really, how are things going?
How's everything going?
I'm Robert Brinson.
And I'm Tiffany Brinson, and we've been at TNBC for about 4.5 years. When Chris and Heather started sharing that they needed a transplant is when I felt like right away the Lord was speaking to me. And so after they shared, I approached to Heather that I felt like the Lord was telling me that everything was going to be okay. And then I said, if all else fails, I'll do it. That's what I said, and that's kind of how it started in my mind. But then I got home and talked to Robert, and Robert's the logical side, the real logical side. And he started saying, what about our son? We have some medical issues with him. What about the timing? I work full time. So he started bringing up some of the logical stuff, and I said, well, we'll just pray and think about it, and we kind of left it at that.
I've felt conflicted, to be honest. It's hard because I truly believe that she feels like God's telling her to do this, that God is telling her to do this, but at the same time she's my wife, And so you think, while it's a safe procedure, and statistically speaking, everything should be just fine, but there's always just that chance. I worry, I do worry. But I do believe that God has told her to go forward with this, and so I'm trusting that He has all the details worked out in her, and He's got her life in His hands, and that He's going to take care of her, and she's going to be fine.
Okay. Well, honestly, this has been an incredibly challenging process, I think, for both of our families. We have felt God walking with us through each step of the process, but it doesn't mean that there haven't been several moments along the way that we have both struggled immensely, and reached out to our small group and reached out to our church family for support. Very recently, God gave me a verse, 2 Corinthians 1, verses 8 through 11, and it says, "We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired even of life. Indeed, in our hearts we felt the sentence of death. But this has happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead. He has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and He will deliver us. On Him we have set our hope that He will continue to deliver us. As you help us by your prayers, then many will give thanks on our behalf for the gracious favor granted to us in answer to the prayers of many." Our small group has already rallied around both of our families in prayer and in deed, and supporting us, and it's meant the difference on those challenging days. And I know that is going to continue to be a need that we have. And one of the reasons why we wanted to share at this point what's going on is because we need the prayers of our church family. We need that prayer support, and we need that practical support as well. There's a lot of things that we can plan for, but there's going to be a lot of things that we can't plan for.
I'm Lewis West. I'm the father of Christopher West, and we're here at the National Institute of Health with good news. Christopher's doing well. He's in intensive care, but should move out maybe today. All is well, thank God. Praise be to God. This surgery, as compared to the other previous surgeries, Christopher would all be nauseated after surgery, had a lot of pain. This time, the 14th time around, very minimal pain, no nausea. He appears to be very comfortable considering the enormity of the surgery he just underwent yesterday. This morning, he's doing real well. I live in Mountain City, Tennessee. That's my primary residence. We also have a home in North Carolina, and we attend church there, and when we're in North Carolina. And so we got people have been in preparation for this for since last fall, praying, and most recently we're in groups praying all day long for Christopher, and it's comforting, and it has results. Christopher, as I explained earlier, his senses, he tolerated the surgery very well, much better than we could anticipate, and it's all, in my mind, due to God's answering our prayers.
Leading up to the surgery is always the worst point for me because I worry so much, and because we've done this for so long, I understand a lot of what's going on with Chris from a medical perspective, so I'm also very aware of what the risks are, and my mind will wander off into all those directions about what if. So knowing the support that we had from our small group, from our family, from our church family, from Christian friends around the state and around the world, and then those friends sending it to their Christian friends and their churches, it gave us great comfort to know that so many people were praying for us. I mean, there's been so many people that have reached out to Chris and I through, words of encouragement, texts, emails, cards, small gifts, large gifts. I mean, it's been wonderfully overwhelming because there's so much going on and it's such an emotional time. It's impossible for us to individually get back to each person and to express our gratitude and our sincere, and there are no words to be able to thank people adequately, but we are so very thankful for the love and support that we feel. We can feel that everybody's here in spirit, and we are just so incredibly thankful. We will never be able to express our gratitude enough to all the love, prayers, and support that folks are giving to us. Yesterday it's just an incredibly hard day to say goodbye to him when he wheels into the OR, and just know that, what's going on with him in that OR. God was faithful to me, even though I still didn't know. I didn't know that he was going to be okay. I still have doubts, but God was faithful and sat by me the whole time, reassuring me through friends, through his word, just through his presence. It's very real and tangible. It still is. I can't say from the first video where I said I struggle with trusting God 100%. I'm not there. Has my faith grown? Definitely. So do I still worry? Yes. But has my faith grown? It's grown immensely. And God has shown me that my spiritual growth process, He can still work His plan for Chris and I, even when I'm struggling and learning to trust Him more. He wants me to trust Him and grow in my trust in Him, but He's not going to stop working if I'm struggling.
Well, there's one in particular I've never met. That's a person that, her name is Tiffany Brisson. Give me just a moment. This situation has moved me like nothing else in my life. I'm 71 years of age. And like I've noted before, this is the 14th time around, and this is like none other, because here's a donor who volunteered because she felt led by God to be a donor. And she's a perfect match, I understand, tissue and blood-wise. And it's moved me greatly that a person like that is willing to give a part of herself and do something for my son that I can't do. And she's doing it because she felt moved by God to do it. And also her husband. I watched a video where he was interviewed, and he supports his wife. He supports Tiffany because he thinks that she's being led by the Lord. So do I. And I look forward to meeting her. And being able to convey my thanks to her. It won't be adequate, but praise be to God for her.